The Flood in the universe of Halo have caused unrelenting amounts of pain and destruction. The most devastating and dark faction in the universe of Halo, killing millions of species and infecting hundreds and thousands of planets in the solar system. From the Primordial and of course the Gravemind, the Flood are a terrifying faction in general. And you want to know what's even worse than this? Well, we thought nothing could be, but apparently we were wrong. The Endless are, and I quote, worse than the Flood. I'm extremely interested to see how this is the case and why. But hey guys, and welcome. Throughout Halo Infinite, we were always told that the Endless were worse than the Flood, and that the Forerunners cannot allow them to be set free. But why is this? Today, I wanted to clarify this and provide a list of reasons as to why the Forerunners cannot allow the Endless to be set free, which also could tie directly into Halo Infinite's DLC 1. Also guys, as usual, make sure you guys go check the timestamps out in the description down below to of course skip to whichever part of the video that you want to, and if you do come across a part that you already know, of course you can go ahead and skip that. If you do want to enjoy the video as well, I'd really appreciate it if you could consider dropping a like on it as well. It'd be much appreciated, and of course we're trying to hit 10,000 subscribers before Christmas or the end of the year. I don't think it's going to happen, but we can always give it a shot. Hey, of course, if we do reach 10,000 subscribers, I'll be doing a giveaway of a copy of the Halo Infinite campaign, and then of course also some Halo points to use in the store and multiplayer. So again, think about that. Without further ado, let's go straight into the lore. Okay, so to actually begin explaining this, we need to start at the end of the Halo Infinite campaign, at the legendary ending. The two characters speaking are the Grand Edict and Despondent Pyre. This conversation took place just after the Flood Forerunner War, whereby the Halo array was fired in order to contain the Flood outbreak in the universe, led by the Primordial and of course Mendicant Bias. Once the new council was formed, the Forerunners stumbled upon a new species that they'd never encountered before, alive and well right after the firing of the Halo rings. After first encountering and then of course going on to interrogate and speak with this species that are better known as Xalanyn, they found that they had somehow survived the blast of the Halo array and were just perplexed. The species believed that at the time the Forerunners were there to help them on the planet. However, much to the Forerunners' confusion, they returned to Atriox to discuss this new species and the ways they believed that they could survive such a blast. No common denominator within the meeting was drawn, and the new council were just perplexed at the time. Now guys, I've done loads and loads of videos on the ways that I believe that the Endless actually survived the Halo rings blast, so if you guys want to go check those out, I'll leave one or two of them in the link down in the description down below also. And there's also a couple of theories in there as how the Harbinger actually teleports from one place to another, and if time travel in Halo is actually a thing. So go check it out if you want to know more around that. It's really interesting to understand the lore around that too. Parley was organised between the installation's monitors and the new council to discuss the plan of action. Days later, after the monitors had returned to their installations, the Grand Edict, aka the new council, entered Zeta Halo's atmosphere and began conversing with Despondent Pyre around the new council's decision. This is of course where the discussion around the Endless's containment went on and took place, again basically what happened in the legendary ending. The Endless was sentenced to containment within Zeta Halo for examination and investigation. The Forerunners need to understand how they survived this blast. Halo Ring's firing is supposed to cleanse the galaxy, and if that now doesn't work for a species, what is its overall purpose anyway? It doesn't do what it says on the tin, which means that it's not working effectively. Once they find out their secrets and understand how they did survive, they can then make the relevant changes to ensure that they're also wiped out in the event of a Halo Ring firing to again prevent the Flood from spreading. Now that we know a brief history around the Endless, how they were found, and the discussions the Forerunners and Monitors were having when first discovering them, let's talk about why they're such a threat. Now, there are multiple reasons as to why the Endless are a huge threat, and I'll try and give as much backstory as possible for each one of these points, but there are two main reasons I wanted to discuss in this video. There could be more, and again, I may not have thought of any other additional ones, so it's really important that you guys do, if you have any of the theories or any of the thoughts or suggestions that I may not cover in this video, that you comment them down below, and of course we have a discussion, an open discussion with the community around why the Forerunners are so worried about the Endless, and why the Endless are worse than the Flood. Leave your suggestions and theories in the comments down below. It would make for a really good discussion. Number one, obviously, the Flood is the main one. The Flood are an infection form that spreads extremely easily. One Flood spore can actually result in an eventual Gravemind. In the event of a further Flood outbreak, on a Halo Ring or another war involving the Flood, the Halo Rings are fired to wipe out all life in the galaxy to starve the Flood of their food, meaning they will eventually be killed off like the rest of the galaxy. Now, the problem the Forerunners have with the Endless is because somehow they survived this Halo Array blast and they don't understand how. So, in the event of the Halo Array or Halo Ring in general needing to be fired, there's always going to be that one source of food left in the galaxy for the Flood to infect, of course, being the Endless. Unless, of course, they're completely immune to the Flood, but I don't really know how that's possible, so we're going to leave that theory to one side. So, if the Flood infect the Endless, the firing in the Halo rings would do nothing against them, or their primary source of food, so it would be almost useless. This is one of the biggest concerns that the Forerunners had, and one of the main reasons for imprisoning the Endless for investigation and interrogation. They've of course given Despondent Pyre the responsibility to watch over their Silexes and learn their secrets, along with further assistance from the Engineers. And again, I'll leave a picture of the Engineers on screen right now from ODST. Really cool little throwback there. So yeah, the Flood infecting the Endless would be a pretty catastrophic issue unless we know exactly how they survived that Halo ring. And I'm sure we'll find out in DLC 1 how they survived the Halo ring. I can't imagine 343 would keep that from us because it's such an imperative piece of information that if they did, then man, what are they doing? But anyway, moving on to reason number 2, the Forerunner secrets. It's no secret, of course, that the Forerunners are not the rightful holders of the Mantle of Responsibility. Dating back to, of course, the Precursors, they were essentially the guardians of the galaxy, ensuring that not one faction can overpower the rest and become a dominating force. While still allowing conflicts, they ensured that the conflict would never endanger another species. The Precursors at the time concluded that the Forerunners were dangerous and didn't fall in line with the Mantle of Responsibility. They decided that they needed to have them wiped out and had humanity do the dirty work for them. However, somehow the Forerunners came to know of the Precursors' plan accidentally, and of course they didn't stand for this. The Forerunners devised a plan to retaliate against the Precursors and wipe them out before they could do the same to them. War broke loose and the Forerunners slayed all remaining Precursors in existence, inflicting genocide upon their species, and of course retaining the mantle, believing that they were the rightful holders. On the back of this, of course, all remaining remnants of the Precursors turned into a dust-like form, so that one day they could rise again. This essence had essentially become null, and resulted in what we know as today, the Flood. However, there was one remaining Precursor which was found. This one was unlike the rest though. This Precursor was later named the Primordial, and was found in a stasis capsule on a planet on the edge of the Milky Way. The Primordial was taken in for interrogation to find out about the Flood and its purpose. Its answers were so sinister, it sent scientists insane, leading them to eventually take their own life, because they didn't want to go through the process of being turned into a Flood combat form. If you guys want to know more about Mendicant Bias and his story with the Primordial, I will link a video in the description down below so you can listen to it in full detail. It's such a fucking cool story. My favourite story in Halo lore, and I really recommend you guys going to watch it and listen to it if you don't know about it already. Really, really interesting. And it actually links into Halo Infinite a little bit, so yes, worth noting and worth finding out about. But why am I telling you this information? What does this have to do with anything? Well, it's believed and theorised that the Harbinger in-game is in fact a part of the Endless, and that the Harbinger is the remnants of the Precursors. She always mentions about the Forerunners' Lies, and that they're now at an end. How the Endless stood and watched as they were falsely imprisoned and accused in the Silent Auditorium. The only lies in the canon that really make sense is that the rightful holders of the mantle are not the Forerunners, and again, it's the Precursors. The Forerunners passed the mantle down to humanity, better known as Reclaimers, and of course this is why only Reclaimers can access Forerunner technology, like opening Silexes or activating Halo rings. The Harbinger says, "We are not enemies. I know of you, Reclaimer, but hear this. You are not the future," stating that the Reclaimers should not hold the mantle, and that they're not the species that can take the universe in the right direction. And that all, of course, stemmed from the lies of the Forerunners. The Forerunners are not the rightful holders of the mantle, and it was the Precursors, and again, it would have been like an evolution of the Precursors when they eventually died out. And of course, humanity slayed them, inflicted genocide on their species, and of course have taken it for themselves. There are of course the two main reasons for it, and yeah, they both make a lot of sense. Of course the Flood one is probably more realistic. Again, they don't know how they survived it, so if they did survive, then of course if they're infected by the Flood, that of course means that they're basically got an unlimited source of food, and again, no matter what they do, they can't die. But again, going into the lore of the game and more of the canon, looking at what the Harbinger says, and again, it does make a lot of sense and goes back to the Forerunners around the mantle and around the Precursors as well. So even at the end of the game, she was talking to someone, but the connection was extremely old. I'm thinking maybe she was speaking to or communicating with some form of precursor or even some remnants of a precursor. Could even be the Gravemind. So guys, make sure you leave your comments and theories down below. It'd be really interesting to understand what you guys think about this as well, because for me, I personally think that somehow the Flood are still related to this, and potentially it's the Gravemind or even some remnants of a precursor that the Harbinger was communicating with as well. But again, really interesting to think about. But of course, overall, I think these are the two main reasons why the Forerunners are so worried about the Endless. And of course, Mennik and Bias turned on the Forerunners after learning about the precursors and their plans. Maybe the Forerunners think that other monitors and AIs on other installations would do the same if their secret was out. Very interesting, but again, guys, let me know what you think down below in the comment section. It'd be really interesting to know your thoughts and theories around this as well. And again, if the AIs and monitors of different installations knew about the Forerunners' lies, do you think they would have stuck with them as long as that they have? I mean, we don't know at this point. But again, something really interesting to have a little think about. But guys, if you did enjoy, make sure you drop a like on today's video. It'd be much appreciated. And subscribe if you are brand new. Remember, 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year, then I'm doing a big giveaway. So that'd be really interesting if you guys want a chance to earn some Halo points and buy some armor in the really overpriced store. Then, of course, there's an incentive to do it. But guys, have a great rest of your day. Speak to you all soon.